We apologize for those in the chat that were waiting. We had some technical difficulties. We are here with the show a day later. Katie Taylor has secured her all-time great status this week. I think that's the headline, or is it Sheeraz? What's the headline, Dakota?
Well, thankfully, I think it's a multi-headline weekend, which is kind of cool. We've had a lot of sleepier weekends lately, Lukie, and to have multiple fights that were interesting to talk about is a good thing for boxing. I think, in terms of the all-time implications, obviously Katie finally putting the nail in the coffin on the Amanda Serrano rivalry, putting that to bed, really stamping it with her most dominant victory over her only dominant victory over Amanda. Not that it was dominant particularly, but it felt like she won the vast majority of the rounds. And we were talking about this before. I felt like Katie looked better than she has in years. I actually thought Amanda looked pretty sharp by and large. I thought she fought a pretty good fight herself, but it just felt like she was coming in second. Katie's footwork was tremendous. She never stopped to give Amanda that time to really set her shots. And she just boxed a beautiful fight, man. She did what great fighters do. She just separated herself completely from another legend. Muted, bub.
It's a unique fight in the sense that many people see this as Amanda Serrano 2 wins going into this fight. I saw Katie Taylor winning each and every fight. The second fight, I told you when we were talking to a pre-show meeting, that's the one that Amanda could have won. But to me, that whole second half of the fight, she let the foot off the gas and let an all-time great fighter. I get there's a cut. I get that there's a headbutt, but Katie Taylor to me, and I said in our pre-show meeting, which everyone's like, why are you referencing this thing that no one listened to? Is she's up there with Usyk and Inoue and these great, great modern fighters. And I don't think Amanda's quite at that level. And when you let these all-time greats hang around, they tend to win fights. So I'd seen Katie win tactically 2 fights that were coin flip fights, but she knew how to separate. She had that experience to differentiate herself to the judges. To me, this is sort of what I saw coming in when we were picking the fight. And I was wrong on the Berlanga. Great fighters tend to separate in career defining moments. And she just separated. She just said that this is my moment. This is my era. This is my trilogy. And I think the fight was won before they got in the ring because Serrano was talking about I wouldn't rematch her. I talking about the money, the paydays. And I just didn't think that was a good mindset to come into such a fight like this. Whereas Taylor was talking about, I just can't wait to fight her. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for that. And I think that stuff does matter at the highest level. Our motivations, our mindset, because the skill level at this level is kind of small. I think it's what you're bringing in and your intentions towards the fight that really matter. And I think that Serrano, I saw as someone that's kind of all right with where she's at in the sport. Whereas Taylor, it felt like winning was the most important thing to her. And that's what I saw more than skills in this fight.
There was also, for Katie, it felt like, there was a version of her that we saw early in her career that looked a lot more like this, that had really great footwork, that knew how to stop and pop, that knew how to be smart defensively, that had a really great IQ. And then 2 tough fights with Delphine Persoon, some other hard fights. I think the Natasha Jonas fight, 3 fights with Amanda Serrano. And we just haven't seen that version of her in like 5 or 6 years. And she's become more of a scrapper. And it just looked like in this one, she knew that that's where the fight's 50-50. But if she puts her mind to it, that she's going to make this a tactical fight and not like a balls fight, that's where she has the edge. And that's what impressed me the most, is when a fighter who's had as many hard fights as she has, that's almost 40 years old, can kind of turn back the clock and bring back the old version of herself. I thought it was incredible, man.
But that's what those greats do. Like, look at Nonito Donaire against Inoue. He might not have won the fight, but he turned back the clock. That's why I'm saying whenever
it was a lot like that. That's actually a great comparison.
But like whenever you go in there with a legend, right? There's always a chance they have that, because those legends always have that one last great performance. And it felt like Katie was due for it. And I think that a lot of US based fans don't understand how good Katie is, because a lot of her career didn't matter to them, and they didn't follow her achievements in the amateurs because, frankly, it's not as easy as it should be to follow that stuff. So I think that there was a little bit of like, she never fought at a convenient time for me besides fighting Serrano. And Serrano's like an American fighter, Puerto Rican fighter, but based out of New York. I think there was a little bit of, it kind of goes to a lot of fighters often when you go to the UK. American fight fans like fighters who are fight at a convenient hour for them. So fighters like Junto Nakatani are not always going to be guys that they're screaming for. We still have YouTubers saying, oh, that guy Inoue, he's not that good. And it's like, if you can't look at what Inoue's doing and realize he's a generational talent moving through weight classes,
they'd probably watch Jake Paul at any time of day, though. The people that, you know what I mean? Like the people that say shit like that would watch Jake Paul and Mike Tyson at 3:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Like it's that type of personality that goes, oh, I don't know about Katie Taylor. I'm not sure if she's good or not. When it's like, the only reason she's at this position is because of her talent. Yeah. There's nothing other than talent that's made Katie Taylor Katie Taylor.
Yeah, it's exclusively merit. And frankly, we've talked about this, right? And this plays into some of what I was saying before. You got the 2 tough fights with Persoon. You got the Jonas fight, which is tough. You got 2 tough ones with Chantal. She loses one of them. You got 3 tough fights with Amanda Serrano. And it's so easy to assume that Katie's coming to the end of the line, and to just see her kind of completely reverse it, and to see the way she was moving around the ring, to see the footwork, to see all of that, man, it was just really impressive. It was a great performance for her.
It's like, not to beat a dead horse, but it's what these great fighters do. It's like she fought Serrano essentially in her hometown for the second time in a trilogy, never once got a fight in Ireland. And in the third fight, where a lot of people were expecting Amanda to beat her and win it, she outclassed her. She showed a definitive difference in terms of strategy and ring generalship.
This one was competitive as well, but it wasn't close. Both of them were close and competitive. This one was just competitive. It wasn't close, at least to me. I didn't, the one judge that had it a draw, I just didn't see it that way.
So I think the first fight wasn't as close as people remember it, but maybe I was off. I saw Katie start to take over. I think that the first and second fight, it was that Katie could get rocked by Serrano that I think made such an impression on people. It was the eye-catching power shots, and that. Well, I think the big adjustment for Katie in this fight was she didn't get hit like that. So to me, this performance was a lot like the first performance. It's just you didn't have her getting rocked. That was the big difference.
It was just so much more thoughtful. I mean, we just haven't seen her fight like this, like I said, in so long, and in this stretch, with all due respect, she could have 4 or 5 losses, if the politics of boxing were different, just on having close fights generally. You know what I mean? Where when you have a close fight and you're not the A side, you don't always know if that's going to go your way, even if you felt like you won it. So Katie could have a handful of losses on her record, all things being equal. That doesn't take away from her. It's just to say that, the last couple of years, there's been some hard fights. Some of them, it's easy to argue that she didn't win them. And so to pull this out of the hat, bro, it's legendary.
This has to be the greatest women's trilogy in boxing history. But what do you think the legacy of this fight is? Like, what do you think this trilogy does for women's boxing?
Is it the only trilogy of note in women's boxing history? I mean, I don't have another reference
boxing
point.
Historian, so I'm sure there is a trilogy out there, more than likely. But to me, this is the most consequential.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is a trilogy out there. I mean, I've watched a lot of fights on my day. I can't think of one. I mean, there's a handful of instances of rematches and stuff that I remember, but I think it is sort of a one of one in terms of rivalries, and I think rivalries are part of what get people attached to boxing, right? The Gotti Wards, the Corrales Castillos, the Golovkins and Canelo rivalries, Pacquiao Marquez Vasquez. I could just keep going. But a lot of times, those are the most magical moments in boxing when the two best of a division, of an era, whatever it is, meet and settle that score. And I don't know that women's boxing has ever had that in a meaningful way. And so at least in my view, it's one of the most significant rivalries in boxing, period, and definitely the most significant rivalry in women's boxing history.
So let's go on to some more things. Undercard, let's start with I guess we should start with Shadasia, because Shadasia is someone you've known very well. Heavily doubted going into this. I saw it going one of two ways, that it would go either really bad or it would go really good for her. I'd say it went good for her, but it wasn't the performance that I thought it would go if it went well for her. Why don't you talk us through this fight, because you've covered her. I'd say you're a friend of hers, and this fight was very meaningful for those that had followed her journey. Talk me through what you saw in this night.
Well, the whole week leading up to the fight, man, I felt like I really liked what I was seeing in her demeanor, in her media workout, just how she looked physically. It looked like she had a pretty good weight cut. She just looked healthy, and I felt confident in that sense. But I hadn't been around her for this camp particularly. I haven't really seen her since we finished shooting our last episode, which was I saw her after that, but the last time I saw her was probably April. So I hadn't been around for this camp that much, but I liked what I was seeing. You know what I mean? And when the fight started and Savannah was doing a lot of the holding and leaning, they were exchanging, but there weren't too many clean shots getting landed. And then Taylor takes the point away. I did start to get a little pit in my stomach, a little bit like, here we go. But I could see that she was locked in. It just wasn't going her way. And then in the fifth, obviously she buzzed her. And I think essentially, with the exception of the ninth round, took over the back half of the fight. And, like I was telling you before, I had it 6-4. So it was a 1-point fight. And I felt like she was getting the B-side treatment a little bit. And so, of course, there's always that worry, like, okay, I think we got this one. I think we pulled it out. But what are the chances that she actually gets the decision? You know what I mean? And then when they read it for her, you could see the emotion. You could see how much it's meant to her for a long time. And, she was deprived of those opportunities for so long. And to have the disappointment of the Franchon fight, to build herself back up, and then to get to this big fight, to get to this big matchup, and to get that signature win. And I think to do it by having to dig deep a little when shit's not really going your way. It was a great win for her. It's a great win for Patterson. And at least for me, having been around her a lot, it was a feel-good win, Lukie.
The other thing is, it secured her place in that she talked a big game on the come up, and now she can at least have a victory that she can at the very least say, I beat one of the best of my era. I was deserving of being in this position. Because if she had lost this fight, that would have been crushing. Because I think that I think some of the issues she's had in the past is she believed she was like this hidden gem, unsigned fighter that wasn't getting opportunities. And then she kind of got to a certain level and she wasn't having good performances. And she had done that before by knocking people out and looking. And it was wondering, like, is this level going to be too much for her, either mentally or physically? And on the other side, you saw Savannah. She doesn't look like the same fighter either. This isn't the fighter leading into that Clarissa Shields. This isn't the one calling Clarissa Shields pillow hands. Her body to me looked a little soft, didn't look the same. She's never been like a ripped fighter.
But she also wasn't in with the pillow hands on this one. And so and she said in the post-fight interview, I've never been hit like that in my life. And so I do think that was a factor. And why ultimately Shadasia won the fight was because she was the one with the clean, eye-catching, damaging shots, where there was multiple instances where I thought she had her ready to go. I thought she was going to stop her a couple of times, but you're right. There's a sharpness, there's a confidence that Savannah had not terribly long ago that was not entirely there. I think some of that is Shadasia, and some of that is when you don't fight for 2 years, it's just not the same. You know, especially when you're in with another champion, you're in with somebody that's top 5 in your weight class. That's just not how you want to come back after 2 years.
I feel like I felt going in this fight was going to derail someone's career. I think it derailed Savannah's next half of her career. Because I just think that the way this fight was set up, someone was going to take a hard loss and it was going to be hard to come back from it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I do feel like unfortunately, there aren't that many relevant opponents for her, but who's to say that Savannah doesn't rematch Franchon Cruz-Dezurn and beat her, and she's kind of right back in the same position? You know what I mean? Like, I think she's one good win away from kind of being back in the mix. This was a close fight, and you know, she lost to a very good fighter that's sort of coming into her own later in her career. I don't think it's the end of the world for Savannah Marshall, to be honest.
Chat's jumping off. Salute Lukie and Dakota for Shoeshine Boxing, our good friend. Il Pinche smoking that Berlanga pack. We're going to get to that Berlanga fight. And I'm not sure Baumgardner won that fight. Let's get into Alycia Baumgardner's performance. What did you think?
It was sort of the least interesting of the night for me. I felt like she was getting hit a lot, bro. And I know there's only a couple rounds in the last few years, but I can't frame that as pity when she did that to herself. And so I didn't think it was a great performance. I thought Miranda was pretty resourceful and had some awkward timing. But when you got a champion that's got that much experience and that much notoriety, you just don't expect to see them get hit with the same shit over and over again. She just didn't make the adjustment defensively. But what she did do, which great fighters do, is she closed the show really strong and separated herself. And I think made it obvious, at least to me, that she won the fight. But the scorecards were ridiculous. I mean, it was a close fight.
Yeah, they missed a good fight. The judges missed a good fight. To me, I saw a couple of things. You hit on one. She wasn't solving problems in the ring. It was the same kind of combination.
She was working around them.
Yeah, like I like seeing a little bit more problem solving, like what Katie Taylor was doing, where you're evolving in the ring. It was kind of like she was doing her stuff and she wasn't kind of adjusting to what the opponent had in front of her. Also, watching tape on Miranda was better than I saw on tape, but she's not what I'd call an outstanding fighter. She has a lot of limitations. She doesn't get her head off of the line. And to me, this is very troubling. You know, I'm wondering where Baumgardner's career is going because she has star qualities. She's in great shape. She looks good and she has achievements. But this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Amanda Serrano, where I think there is a comparison. Is Baumgardner satisfied with where she's at in the sport? Because she's not really unifying.
Satisfied with herself, bro. Like, not to be a dick, but she does seem awfully pleased with herself.
But do you get what I'm saying? There is a level when you get to the top. Are you fine with just being at that position? And I'm starting to wonder if this performance is a reflection of Baumgardner puts in the work. She's training hard, but there might not be that desire of Hall of Fame or bust. There might not be that desire of, I want to fight this person, beating Michaela Mayer, becoming undisputed, and the opportunities that arose from that might be good enough. And I'm starting to assess, where does she go from here? Does she fight like a Holly Holm? Does she move up? Because there are some interesting challengers in this division. And at this point, albeit she's not active, Delphine Persoon, I like that as an opponent. But I want to see her in with one of the best of this era relatively soon because she's a marquee name.
Well, but she just looked very vulnerable, man. It's tough to see, you know, if just as an example, if her and Michaela were to rematch, it's very tough to see her, you know, being able to hang at that level, getting hit that clean. And I thought, as I was watching it, I was like, this looks kind of like the first couple of rounds of Keith Thurman and Brock Jarvis, where I think the fighter that was once there will kick in, but there's a little bit of like deer in the headlights when you haven't been in the ring much in recent years and the timing's not there, the footwork's not quite there. She just
the composure isn't there. The focus isn't there to me. And we see things in media workouts. And I called you during the media workout. And one thing I noticed was it was a little all over the place. And it felt like it was a little bit about the cameras. And I get it. She signed with MVP and all this and that. But it felt a little bit like I want to do this thing for this image and this thing for that. And it wasn't as boxing centric. So I think that Alycia Baumgardner should be back before the year's out, one would hope. And let's see if she can get in a good fight. You know, let's see what the opportunities present. Chat, there's a lot of people in there. Let's hear from you. What do you think about this? But that's kind of our take on Baumgardner.
What do you want to do?
I think for the position she was in, it was a pretty underwhelming performance, to be honest. She and El Pinche I thought Michaela Mayer beat her. I actually had both fights a draw. I remember I had Savannah Clarissa a draw, and I had Michaela Baumgardner a draw. I think Baumgardner won off her early rounds, but I mean that fight was very close, and it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way they didn't rematch, because that was like the type of fight that should be rematched.
I don't think she's interested in it. Like I haven't seen her take an interest in a genuinely challenging fight since then.
Since she won her genuinely challenging fight, I haven't seen her like step up to that next tier, which is disappointing because she kind of took a hard path to get there. So you would assume that you would, if you came up on the club circuit and you'd lost a fight early in your career, you'd kind of embrace that role because you'd been battle tested. But we got to find out her motivations over the coming years.
Am I wrong? She's looked way sharper than that before. Like, not that she was a slickster, not that she was ever a slickster, but I don't remember her just getting clocked with the same shit over and over again.
But like the way I remember is the Mayer fight where she had a good jab, she had really good reflexes, and she's loading up on her right hand. So it's like she's good in and out, jab, 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 and then she's got a big right hand that she's trying to land over the top of a jab. And she was kind of like almost like a bivel, where she's like kind of on the outside, picking you, and then she'll throw a couple of shots. And in this fight, I felt like she was fighting at a slower pace, is the best way I can put it. Her feet weren't as bouncy. And because she wasn't bouncing, she wasn't hopping in and hopping out, I felt as though she was getting just hit with stuff, because I think she used to her defense was her legs, in my opinion. And in this fight, her legs didn't look as similar to what I saw in her prime.
Agreed.
Okay, now can we talk about my favorite performer on the card?
Please, bro.
Ellie Scotney, man. I think she's a star. I told Dakota, and I want the chat to weigh in on this. I'm going to make a separate video later today for the YouTubes and my Substack. I think she might be the best.
Lukie, there's gonna be a lot of people that don't like what you have to say.
I don't think anyone's going to care. I don't like what fan base is going to come out and be like, dude, you're wrong. Like, I'm
fucking around it. It's just always seemed like Clarissa and Katie have very passionate fan bases, but continue.
I think Katie, I haven't ever like bashed Katie, so I've never like gotten the Katie hater fans. Like, but I think Ellie Scotney might be the best women's boxer in her prime right now. And I'll unpack that. But what I'm saying is, I think Clarissa Shields has the best body of work as a fighter, and she's still very good. Like, she's one of the 3 best. It's hard for me to know where she's at, because she's in divisions where it's like she just doesn't have the competition for us to accurately assess, but she's not having like close fights, which is impressive. There's Katie Taylor, but I think she's not quite what she once was because of age. But to me, Ellie Scotney is right up there. Her performance against Trinica Johnson, and now this performance against Mercado, these are real tough fighters. And she is separating the way you ask an elite fighter to separate. I think there's a real possibility that she's the best in all of women's boxing.
Pretty tremendous, bro. The angles she's given, the variety in her combinations. I mean, can you think of a more dominant unification fight in recent times? I mean,
male
other
or
than
female,
maybe like, I'm saying like maybe Spence Crawford, but other than that, I can't really think of a more dominant unification fight.
The thing with me that I like is how she breaks off the line and then like she'll get a combination going, but normally people get one shot. She'll kind of break off the line, get 2 punches in, and then pivot and then look to work again. Like
Right.
to me, she's doing a lot of high level stuff that I would assume people would look at and go, wow, that looks right. Even if you don't know what it is, you would look at it and go, wow, that looks like something that's really elite. But I get the feeling that like people are like, oh, she doesn't have power. Oh, there's no knockout. But like to me, when I'm watching her, she is one of the most fundamentally sound boxers, male or female, right now. And her
always on
hand
balance,
speed,
always ready to punch.
but it's like it's not just the balance, it's like the balance with the hand speed, with the willingness to exchange. When action isn't happening,
head
she
movement.
dictates it, head movement, and then she dictates with a jab. She's every cliche you ask a fighter to be, and she's the total package. And get this, I don't think she's turning down fights. I think she wants to fight everybody. So for me right now, I'm starting to have to really think that she's one of the top. Like she's one of the top fighters. The only sad part really is she's at 122. There's no real big name there. Maybe she could fight Sky Nicholson, but like that to me just seems like that. I just think there's a level.
Maybe she can get a fight with Amanda Serrano at featherweight before Amanda decides to wrap it up. I mean, that would be very interesting to me, considering the natural size difference and the experience difference. I would definitely favor Ellie, but I mean, that'd be a real treat, honestly, because I agree, bro. I think she's in the pound for pound conversation any way you slice it now. And she's starting to remind me of Bam. I feel like she occupies a similar place in women's boxing that Bam occupies in men's boxing.
I was going to compare her to Bam, and I was also going to compare her to Loma, but not like how most people would do footwork. It's like she's going to run into the Loma thing where she's so friggin' good that she's probably, if she stays at her weight class, she'll get bored, and the fans will get bored too. So it's like Loma probably is the greatest featherweight ever, right? But at some point, he probably was like, I got to move up because the better fights are like he's like, if I stay at featherweight.
By the time he moved up to 130, Lukie, who else was even left?
But that's what I'm saying. It's like Lomachenko is probably the greatest featherweight ever, but he couldn't just sit at featherweight because it got to a point where everyone's going to just move up or leave the division or skip the division. And who's he going to fight? And I think that what's going to happen to Ellie is she's so good, she's going to have to go to featherweight just because. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah, she's tremendous, bro. I'm looking forward to following what it looks to me is going to be a long, storied, multi-weight championship
a Hall of Fame career. It should be a Hall of Fame career.
I'm gonna make a fantasy fight real quick, Lukie. This is a deep cut you and I kind of fight, and definitely down the road. But man, would I love to see her and Rihanna Rios get it on in a couple of years.
Oh, I'd love that fight, bro, because that's like-minded individuals. That's the type of fight they both deserve.
And I just see them both. You know, Rihanna's incredibly well-rounded for someone so early in their career. I just think that's a tremendous matchup a couple years down the line when Rios has a little bit more experience. But man, I want to see that. And my apologies for the cough drop. I got a little cold working, so if you hear me kind of crushing stuff around.
You work. This is a flu game. They know you're putting in your reps. I guess just to finish out the card, we'll kind of go quick over the rest of the card because we had.
I didn't see the prelims, Lukie. How was Chantel Cameron?
Well, I watched all of it because I'm crazy. You know how I get down. So Chantel Cameron was all right. You know, Kamara's a tough cookie, man. It's hard to look good against Kamara. Chantel solved her, broke her down, and won the second half of the fight, but it was competitive. Chantel is such a good fighter for like basically making weight on 12 hours notice and then getting into a grueling fight. I don't think people care enough or understand how hard that is because that's interesting. I still think Chantel could be one of the top women's boxers. It just feels like her momentum isn't the same as Scotney right now. Like she doesn't have that same.
About 10 years older too.
Yeah, but it's like that energy. Like when they get the big win and you kind of feel invincible, it feels like she's had some highs and lows and frustrations. Like feels like she's a little burnt out when she's in there, as I was looking at. Chernika Johnson stopped our friend Sharetta Metcalf. Johnson's at that weight class a really good accurate puncher.
She's a problem. She's a problem.
She's able to break people down. She's very tough. And I think that also speaks to how good Ellie Scotney is. Ella basically handled her pretty easily. And it's not like Ella's some monster puncher either. So at that weight class, Chernika's still a good puncher. Tam Thibault, really, really good. Like, she has a really good southpaw left hand. And then Ramala Ali basically got a gift. The broadcast and everybody, myself included, saw Furtado beating her, and the judges didn't. And it was a rough one. The broadcaster in the ring even said, I thought you lost, which I thought was a rough hang, because, I mean, it looked like she had taken a lot of shots, and now they're asking her to do an interview, and you kind of started out kind of tough.
Asking her to do an interview and admit that she lost.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it just kind of felt a little tone deaf, you know, like she just had a hard fight. I don't think she had all of her wits about her, and then you bombard her with a really hard question after this. To be quite honest with you, I don't really see how Ramla Ali can go to that next level, because she doesn't have the footwork and she doesn't have the power. It's so
funny. When she first went pro, I thought she totally had the footwork. I was like, this girl's nothing but footwork. I don't really know what's falling apart or what's disconnected.
When this fight, the Furtado got to the inside, and it looked like she wanted to bang with her to show that she could do it. And she messed around and found herself in a fight that she couldn't really do. And it seemed to take a little air out of the tires, and she couldn't get back to going 70 on the freeway.
Yeah, I did think she was very talented earlier in her career. I thought the win over Avril, Avril Matthew was impressive. I thought that there was a potential there, but she's clearly hit a weird patch.
There's still potential. I think one of the big issues is now John Ryder's her coach. I mean, you have to pick a team and just kind of build, right? I think part of the
Chubb's Ryder, bro.
What is it?
I'm thinking about Chubb's Ryder.
I'm loving Ryder, bro. Like, I feel like I'm one of the only Americans when I see Ryder, I'm like, that's my guy, John Ryder.
Yeah, bro. Chubb's Ryder. It's a new era.
And I like him as a coach too. He's saying all the stuff he didn't do. He's like, jab, move your head, come in. It's like when he came in, he was just
good head movement.
Look, John Ryder, I loved as a fighter because he was a man's fighter. You're going to have a man fight if you fight John Ryder. He's going to, but like, he's coming to fight. He's not like, oh, let me sweet science you. It's like John Ryder's coming, you're leaving with a souvenir. Even if you're Canelo, your body's going to feel it. Let's move over. But like, I think there's still room for Ali. I think she just needs to find a place where she's like, I'm going to be here for 3 to 4 years for the rest of my career. Every time you change a coach, I think it resets your development, because then you have to relearn stuff. That's just how I feel. So I just think she has to find a place, someone that complements her style, etc. Probably also don't listen to criticism. Like, don't listen to, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Just find something that's effective and works. Because I think also what's kind of hurt her is like and this is speaking of Ellie Scotney, not to keep singing her praises, this is what makes Ellie Scotney great. I don't see Ellie Scotney sitting and wondering about what people think of her style. She just keeps winning. I feel like maybe Ramla Ali at times wanted to be a puncher or wanted to fight on the inside at times, and that got her away from being successful.
Sure.
Okay, let's go over to your Sheeraz Berlanga. You called this fight perfect. Let's talk about it.
Listen, bro, I just didn't feel like Edgar had the ability to generate enough offense to hang with somebody that had the arsenal that Sheeraz had in every other fight up to the Adames fight. Now, Carlos Adames is a good champion. He's been around for a long time. He's got a lot of experience against a lot of top guys. And Hamzah Sheeraz is a 6'4" guy who wears about a size 15 shoe that was cutting down to middleweight. And I just don't think you were getting the most out of his abilities with him doing that. And then factor in that he's in with a guy that knows what he's doing. You just didn't get the best night from him. And even if he had gotten the loss in that fight, I just felt like, generally speaking, Edgar doesn't generate enough offense. What he was doing early in his career was he was catching guys, and he was a really great puncher, and so they were going down. And then he did get up to a certain level, and they didn't just go to sleep, right? There was more work that he would have had to have done to get him out of there. And has yet to be able to do that work. He showed a lot of balls against Canelo. I thought that who was his last win against? Do you remember, Lukie?
Padrig.
But yeah. Yep. In that fight, I thought that he looked better. But just generally speaking, I've never seen him generate enough offense to where I felt he'd be able to hang with Sheeraz. That's what happened. Sheeraz took 3 rounds to kind of get a feel out. And then once he legitimately started letting his hands go, it looked like a mismatch. And it as a viewer, it's that much sweeter when somebody like Berlanga's been yapping all week and, being all crazy and I'm a superstar. And then when you get laid out like that and you're just not on the level, there is something rewarding about somebody kind of facing a little instant karma. But it's a great win for Sheeraz. There was a lot of boxing people like you that felt like Edgar had a really serious chance and Hamzah had no business having that be his first super middleweight fight. And I understand that argument, but I think that's what makes it so impressive for Hamzah is he made it look like easy work.
I also think that, like I was telling you, Berlanga with the trash talk can be one of two things. It can be delightful. It can sell a fight. It can also put a lot of pressure on you when things are going wrong. And I felt like with the closer this fight got, we recorded the podcast, started getting nervous because of all of the antics, right? The Oscar and that, because it's like you're going in with Sheeraz, even if you're better than Sheeraz, there's a lot of energy you have to use for that fight because this is a heavy hitter. This is a guy who's capable of doing a lot of things. And maybe I'm old school in this way, but the more you talk trash, when you hit adversity, it makes adversity 3 times harder because now you're no longer just fighting the situation. You're fighting the humiliation of you're not living up to your words.
And the expectations that you've put on yourself from other people that you put out into the world,
and it's like a lot of these things, I feel like a lot of the Berlanga antics are for social media because it's like the algorithms reward people for like this type of stuff. So you're going to get circulated and you're going to be a bigger deal. But the downside to that is when you get dropped in this fight, now you have to really start to question, wait, is this guy what I thought he was?
I think that's the wrong conversation though. I think what really, and maybe there's some truth to it, but I think the real outcome here is that Hamzah Sheeraz is a force. He took a really good fighter who had 16 straight knockout wins to start his career and went 12 rounds with Canelo and made it look easy. And I think that's really the headline. It's not that Edgar Berlanga.
He disarmed him because the reason I thought Berlanga would be successful in this fight was, say what you want about him, he's physically imposing and strong. And moving up in weight, I liked the guy that was physically strong. And what I was impressed with him, Coach Pullman had sent me something and it got me scared. He said, I like what Andy Lee's doing. They were doing mitts and a lot of what they were doing. And Andy Lee in that running for Coach of the Year, to me, it's Andy Lee, Bozy Ennis, and Rudy Hernandez right now for Coach of the Year. Those are the 3. But within 2 to 3 rounds, Sheeraz had him at the end of punches. And when Berlanga started to kind of do the thing where he's not throwing as much, he started punching around the guard. And that's when I knew he was cooked, was he wasn't going to just let Berlanga be inactive and walk forward and fire at a range he liked. He was initiating, but he was weaponizing his talent. It was a very Robesi Ramirez like performance when he fought Nova, kind of to me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that at least for me, especially with Canelo leaving, with Morrell leaving, with Benavidez leaving, super middleweight, it doesn't have as many big players as it once did not that long ago outside of Canelo. I mean, who doesn't want to see Christian Mbili and Hamzah Sheeraz? He's just another guy to throw right in the mix that I think is live against anybody, man. I really do. I think the kid's a problem.
and he always looked special to us. But that Adami's fight, and Adami's a good fighter, it was quite concerning to see a fighter of that stature not level up against a guy that we had seen have off nights. I get that a guy can perform well and he's a seasoned veteran, but I do think that it was a reasonable doubt to wonder where Sheeraz was at, because that Adami's fight, it showed.
I think it was also reasonable to doubt that a guy with that frame could make 160 and get the most out of his abilities.
Well, I think that's also true. But where do you what does this say about Canelo? Because Canelo couldn't do this performance and Sheeraz did. Does this say Sheeraz is just like one of these up and comers who's really, really quite astonishing? Or is this kind of make us also go, wait, what's up with Canelo? He's not giving us the fights we want. And then the guys he fights after they face him, these up and comers are having better performances than him.
I just think what it shows is that Hamzah is on the ascend, right? He's coming into his own, he's coming into his prime, and I think this is his arrival to elite boxing right here. But I think I read less into the Canelo's washed narrative, more so as I see he is not putting his foot on the gas the way he was on the 2018 to 2022 run. You know, where if he had Billy Joe Saunders or Caleb Plant or whoever, Sergey Kovalev, or he was finishing, he was finishing them off or going for it. He's not doing that anymore. He's not. He keeps it in third gear. He stays on cruise control, and that's enough to beat a lot of guys. But it's not enough to take out a young fighter that maybe really does want to be there and wants to win, which is what Berlanga was that night. So I think it does say to some extent something about Canelo for sure.
Lobster 11 trash talk threw himself a party after losing to Canelo. That's pound for pound level delusion. Did he do that, Dakota?
I am not aware of him doing that, but it wouldn't blow my mind. And, you know, I think he is a little delusional. I think that there are times where us as New York people can start to look a little small town, where if somebody becomes the best in New York or the king of New York, right? Like we're kind of the center of everything in America at times. And so I think sometimes New York guys, they get to the top here and they go, this applies everywhere. And you just, sometimes it does. And sometimes you can look like a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because there is talent with Berlanga, but it's like for him to get back to where he needs to go, there's a level of humility he has to have, because I'm not sure.
A lot of humility, bro.
If you
lot of humility.
Path, I'm not sure you can go much further, because to me, it seems what's limiting him is the lack of humility.
And listen, bro, these are issues we've been talking about him having since the fucking Steve Rolls fight, and they haven't changed really even a little. And so at a certain point, you have to look at what you're doing and say, not only have I now lost to an all-time great, I've gotten smoked by one of my peers, by one of my contemporaries. At what point do you go and say, it's time for a reset? It's time for me to assess how my approach.
It's not the coach. Coach Mark is a great coach. You know, he works with Najee Lopez, Dominique Valle. He has lots of great fighters. Blast, Val Saint. It's not the coach. I think it's just there's a level of, I don't want to say maturity, but it's like you have to approach these fights kind of realizing nothing is given to you. And I think that the big thing for me about Berlanga, not to beat on him too much, is Sheeraz, it's clear, wants to be a world champion. That's what he really wants. And he changed his career when he had a draw. He changed things and shook it up. Is Berlanga okay? And this kind of applies to Serrano and Baumgardner too. Is Berlanga okay with where he's at? Is he fine with never?
I got to defend Amanda for a second, because Amanda sort of can be okay because she's a 7-division world champion. Edgar sort of never got off the starting line in terms of being an elite level fighter, and already was being anointed the next great super middleweight and, you know, calling himself a superstar. I just think that's a little different than Amanda being satisfied. because she's already kind of been there, done that. Edgar's yet to be there or do that. You know what I mean?
Well, what I'm saying is like Amanda, it's fine for her to be there because she's basically like nearing the point of the end. But with Amanda, Baumgardner, and Berlanga, they're all in different stages of their career. But I don't see the motivations being the same with any of those fighters. I don't see like Berlanga's never won a world title. So out of all of them, I'd imagine he should be the most hungry. And you could make an argument that he has possibly the lowest desire of any of them for a title. He's just interested in compelling matchups and big names, which to me, I feel like you should win a title to get that.
Yeah, I think that it's entirely possible, bro, that Edgar Berlanga is just kind of another Curtis Stevens, you know, and Curtis was a fun fighter, had a great career, gave us some really fun nights at the fights, but never got up to that level, maybe because to some extent a lack of humility or a lack of willingness to admit that there is an up to aspire to. But that's kind of where I see Edgar right now. I see him as another Curtis Stevens.
Checkers. Wasn't that what was Curtis Stevens with Dame Dash?
I love me some chin checkers, bro. That was how I came up. That was my shit, you know, as a young, you know, 10, 11, 12-year-old boxing fan. And Kurt was a tremendous fighter and a cool guy. You know, I met him once. He was a really nice guy. But like I said, never got past the Golovkins and the Lemieux and the other guys that were that guy. That's where Kurt just gave us a fun night. And I think maybe that's what Edgar is.
Lobster 11, dude, definitely performed in terms of money per skill level ratio. Amanda's solid. Katie just adjusted better after the last fight. Serrano's legacy is already set. That's true. Let's go to the co-feature. Shakur Zepeda. What did you think?
It's a great fight, bro. I mean, what a fucking great fight. I was really impressed with how Zepeda started out. I thought it was pretty 50-50 through like 8 rounds. I think I had it like 4-4 or 5-3. And, you know, Shakur just took those couple of steps and started to separate himself 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I felt like pulled it out. You know, he got hit more than we've ever seen him get hit. This was sort of his Maidana, Mayweather Castillo performance. But he showed that he's got that dog, and he showed that, you know, when he has to be in that kind of a fight, which I think Zepeda did force him. I think everyone's acting like Shakur just made a choice to sit in the pocket. I think Zepeda forced him to. I think he came out and threw a ton of body shots and pinned him down and put a pressure on him that he's never seen before in the ring. And I think it made him switch up his game. It was a tremendous performance, man, from both of them. I'd kind of like to see him do it again. I think Shakur would win it more dominantly, but I liked seeing him think that through with a guy that wasn't impressed by him, that was able to deal with his speed to some extent. You know, Zepeda was very equipped for this fight to be competitive for the whole time, and watching Shakur really do it with his offense and make it. You know, he's taken all this volume from this power puncher, and he's the one landing the sharp, crisp shots. It was impressive, bro. It was a hell of a fight.
Yeah, I think that I've thought for a while Shakur is one of the best fighters in the world. This is the type of fight I've been wanting to see him in, because I think he's the type of guy that when you put him in with the best, he's going to raise his level up. But if he consistently can't get those type of opponents, I think at times he might go on cruise control. And I think some of those performances, maybe he wasn't at his best health or he was injured going into fights. But I also think there's a part of him where it's like, I call it like athlete depression, where like if an athlete can't challenge themselves, they kind of feel a little down. And like, I think this was a moment where he's always wanted to be in a fight where he's doubted. He's wanted to be in a fight that really matters and people are excited for. And some of the luster had been taken off because of Farmer's success with Zepeda. But I thought that Shakur showed that, at least to me, if we're going to play eye test, he's the best lightweight based on the eye test. To me, it's like him and Andy Cruz.
Based on the substance. Who else has a win of this caliber? No one has a win of this caliber at lightweight right now.
To me, it's like you have him and Andy Cruz are the two guys I'm looking at that just kind of look different. and then you have Gervonta, who's in the news for all the wrong reasons again, and Murtaya. And I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just saying they haven't grabbed my attention in the same way Shakur and Andy Cruz have so far.
I think you got to talk about Lamont Roach in that conversation too. But man, wouldn't Shakur and Lamont Roach, after the two performances those two guys have had in their last two fights, I mean, that's as good of a fight as it's ever been.
But I mean, I think also what people need to realize, I think Lamont is at lightweight for Gervonta. He probably is a junior lightweight. Like, he's probably going to compete after those fights back at 130. So, yes, he can compete at lightweight, but I think they're really trying to go for unification bouts at 130 pounds, but they want to take this tank fight again.
They might be waiting for a while on that one.
I mean, it's just whatever. But I mean, to me, Shakur is one of the fighters of this generation. He's one of the great American fighters of this era. And I hope he can get.
He almost got knocked out, Lukie. I don't know if you remember early in the fight. I mean, he got buzzed in a way we haven't seen him get hit like that to get buzzed. So that was kind of a shocking moment where it felt like this could kind of go either way. And then watching him just stay cool, you know, he steered the ship, cool, calm, and collected, and just took himself to the win, man.
It was a little bit longer version of Shane versus Floyd for me, where like Shane landed that big punch on Floyd and you go, oh my God, Floyd got hit. He held. And you're like, what's going to happen? But then it was like you said, the thing that's special to me about, there's so many things that are special about Shakur, but let me try to verbalize what's special. First off, he's like a wizard. I keep going to that. It's like he's like in Mario Brothers, the guy with the wand, and you try to jump on him and he waves his wand and he's on the other side of the screen. You're like, how did he get to the other side of the screen? That's kind of how I see his footwork, is he's like a wizard. He can disappear in there. But then he also is able to fight in different types of range. So he's really good at outside, but he's gotten better at the mid-range, and he can work on the inside too. And he's able to be fluid with his offense, but he always is defensively responsible. And it's hard to find guys. Normally guys are one or the other. They're defensive or they're offensive, but he's very good defensively, but he never lowers the punch output to a severe degree when he's being defensive in this fight. So like I think what people thought was, oh, this guy's going to punch, Shakur's not going to punch. There's an outwork factor. When he started to, and that's why I compare it to Floyd versus Shane Mosley. When he flicked that switch, when he walked into that room and flicked the switch, bro, he started walking down. He started making adjustments. He was not fighting the same fight round after round. And to me, this just showed, I don't want to say he's the closest we've seen since Mayweather, but I'm not saying that either. Like, this was a very Mayweather-like adjustment that Shakur did.
And I think that's why I compare it more so to like Mayweather Maidana or Mayweather Cotto, where he was in with an opponent that was able to maintain what they were doing. Whereas Shane, you know, Floyd kind of figured him out and then it was smooth sailing. This was a guy who didn't go away, and he still figured it out.
And don't quote me on this. I think Shakur's favorite version of Floyd was that later half, where he was a little bit older and he could watch him. I think Money Mayweather's his favorite. And in this fight, it feels like that was a big influence to him. Like those late Mayweather fights, the Maidana, it feels like he's someone that's watched those. I know Pernell Whitaker is a big influence for Shakur, and you can kind of see some of that. But to me, this almost felt like someone who's a major film nerd of old Mayweather footage and really took it serious. And this was his moment to kind of show everything he's capable of.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, let's go to the next one. My guy, Albert Puello, lost. Matias beat Puello. What did you think?
Another great fight. I mean, this was a card filled with good fights, man. And Matias just brought the fight the whole time. Puello was really slippery in this one too. You know, he knows how to kind of smother and do what he's got to do on the inside. But it felt like the more damage was done by Matias. Again, it was a really close fight. And with Puello's luck over the course of his career, it seemed like the perfect way for him to get a 7-5 nod But they gave it to Matias, and ultimately, even though I thought Puello closed strong, I felt like they got it right.
So I thought Puello was going to win another split decision. I won't lie to you. I had the fight a draw, which is probably like the most boring answer.
I think that's fair, though. I thought
It was a
that's
really
accurate.
good fight where neither guy fully separated. I thought it was a fight of two halves, and it really came down to what round you thought Puello came on. Because when Puello came on in that second half, he kind of took over the fight, doing his Puello thing.
Yeah, I will say, though, I think Matias sort of jumped a hurdle on this one with a certain style of guy. Like, he showed that even a guy of that quality, who's that smart, he can pin you down and fuck you up, at least for some rounds. And getting a win like this, I think, will be a big confidence thing for him. That not that I think he was ever lacking in confidence, but if there was a slight dip in confidence after the Paro fight, you know, winning this fight, having a belt, being one of the top 4 guys again, you know, and by the way, just being one of the more entertaining guys in boxing. I will say, though, I don't like how his legs are looking. I think he's starting to get old legs a little bit.
No, I see it too. I feel like he's there kind of. This is the back 9. We're not, this is not, he's coming out and getting hit with an overhand right.
He's battle tested.
To a fault, almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what did you think of my guy?
But that being said, bro, you know, he was making guys quit for years, and that wasn't a fluke, right? That really is his style. He's a relentless guy that is, I think, still going to make, I think there's still more quitting yet to come from Subriel Matias opponents. I don't think it's going to be Richardson Hitchens. I think you know exactly what kind of guys are going to give him problems. But I think he's going to make a lot of people quit before it's all said and done.
What did you think of David Morrell, Imam Khataev?
Might have been fight of the night, honestly. I mean, that was a fucking banger. It felt like Khataev really surprised Morrell early with how aggressive he was, how much he was going to the body. There wasn't like, nah, give me some room. Let me figure it out. There was none of that. Khataev was on him right from jump. Obviously dropped him, hurt him. The idea that David Morrell is this unstoppable, unmovable force, the way we felt about him 2-3 years ago, that's obviously not true, right? That's been taken down at this point. He's a really good fighter at light, particularly at light heavyweight. I think it's different, but he's a really good light heavyweight, but he's not, it's a little like Berlanga, where he got up to a certain level and he's just not wowing in the same way. That being said,
also it's since he's gone to light heavyweight, the power hasn't been the same.
That's the big one, right? You don't just touch guys and they go to sleep. It's real easy to look, you know, away from a flaw if you're just touching guys and they're going to sleep. But like, you know, with Morrell, I thought he actually did a great job, especially in the back half of the fight, of separating himself in some of those rounds, of having the more eye-catching, exciting moments and taking the play away from Khataev, who felt like he won collectively more time in the fight. But it's like, if I'm going round by round, I know everybody's saying it's a robbery. I don't know if it was a robbery, because I felt like Morrell would kind of hang out in the weeds and then boom, just like pull away and hit that finish line at the end of the round first on a lot of them. So it was a close fight. I wouldn't have been mad if they gave it to Khataev. I don't think I actually scored this one, but it felt like, even though Khataev had a really good performance, that Morrell knew when to put his foot on the gas and take the play away.
Yeah, that sums it up. We're running long today, so we'll go into this week's card. The big fight, I guess we could say, is,
give me one sec.
Well, the big fight this week is Usyk versus Dubois II. For those that haven't watched the show, and let me read some comments too. Shakur fought fantastically. He silenced a lot of critics with that performance. He showed coolness under pressure and not afraid of getting wet, but able to deflect and roll with Zepeda's onslaught. Good observation. So, Usyk versus Dubois II. The first fight, to me, not very controversial. People label it a controversial fight. I don't really see the controversy that a lot of people see. I think that Usyk got hit low. You know, he reacted like a guy that took a shot low. If the ref had started counting, I think he would have got up, moved around, and then inevitably stopped Daniel Dubois. The fight is more interesting, I believe, because Dubois is on this knockout streak. He's one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division. And it was a great fight when it happened in 2023. It was also a fight on ESPN Plus. Now it's a pay-per-view fight, which I'm not super thrilled about. But I don't see how the outcome is any different. I didn't see the Dubois shot. I was talking to our great listeners and friends about how I saw this the same way you did, Dakota, where Dubois got punched him low. And it wasn't very controversial to me. And it was a guy that reacted like that, but you have a bunch of people. And it's kind of the world we live in, right? People like us, internet people, content creators. Oh, I thought the shot was low. And then a famous person goes, I did too. And then all of a sudden it brings validity and people start talking about. To me, it was a very clear low shot. The referee thought it was a low shot. Usyk stood up, got up, shook it off, and then stopped Dubois. I think Dubois is a fantastic fighter, maybe the hardest hitter at heavyweight, but it's going to probably take more than power to beat a guy like Usyk at this stage. You're muted.
I think the difference in this one is just Dubois' accomplishments since then, having the signature win of knocking out Anthony Joshua, having the Jarrell Miller win, having the Hrgovic win. There's been good things that he's done since that Usyk fight that maybe give him a momentum push that he didn't have going into the first one. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, listen, bro, the low blow, it's amazing that people are even still arguing the low blow. Like, what's the best case scenario? That he hit him in the bladder? Like, if you get hit by a heavyweight in the bladder, which is not getting hit in the nuts, but it's not a legal shot, you're going to go down and you're going to be in pain. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Like, people don't like Usyk, and so they want to believe, like, oh, this skinny, tiny little heavyweight, he's not a real heavyweight. He's a manufactured heavyweight. And it's just like, you're just salty that he's beating your guys. That's all it is.
Well, the thing about Usyk is he's the best modern fighter who's beaten all the fighters that were built up and promoted by the major promoters. And I feel like a lot of fans, rather than embracing a guy like this, are like, dude, we wanted it to be Joshua.
Well,
Dude,
but none of the fights are easy. So then they have to go, oh, see, he's not even that good. He couldn't even do it one-sided. You know, like, it's never enough.
Yeah, and the standard isn't really held to anyone else.
He lost to 4 rounds to Anthony Joshua, and we know how much he sucks. Like, that's the argument against Usyk, basically.
Well, and it's like, remember when I said I think he's one of the 5 best heavyweights ever, and people were getting on the chats trying to fight me?
I know,
like,
and it's okay if you want to live in the 70s and you think Ezzard Charles would have beaten him, but like, you can kind of fuck off, bro. He's kind of the best at what he does.
But like, I still think Tyson Fury is a top 10 heavyweight because a lot of these guys from the 70s and 80s that were great heavyweights are going to have problems with a 6'9" heavyweight that's got a good jab and is going to lean on you.
Yeah, you tell me Sam Langford's going to beat Tyson Fury? Like, get the fuck out of here, bro.
He's got that piston jab.
Yeah, 5'9", 178, you know, but he'll, you know, these are the guys that will beat Usyk. And then, and, you know, it's fine. If you want to think that, that's fine. But like, it's silly. Just give the man his props, you know?
Yeah, so basically they're building a pay-per-view card around this fight. It's not unfathomable that Usyk could get dropped because Dubois is a big, heavy puncher. But I mean, I think that Usyk's coming into this fight to basically just finish out his business and beat the last kind of British guy that there's any questions around, because that's what Usyk does, is he just like makes definitive.
You know what else Usyk does, Lukie? You know what else he does?
He wins.
Rematches. The man does rematches. He's got 2 with Joshua.
He's not afraid of challenges. He gives everyone a shot.
He's got 2 with Joshua, 2 with Fury, 2 with Dubois. Probably the 3 best British heavyweights of the era. But listen, if it goes how, you know, everybody else that doesn't like him thinks it's going to go, Dubois will win easily. And then when he doesn't, they'll just have excuses for why that didn't happen.
Do you think Usyk stops Dubois in this fight?
I think it's possible. I don't think it's certain. You know, Usyk is getting a little older. We don't know at what point does he start slowing down a little bit. We've yet to see that from him, but it will happen one day. And Dubois is a hell of a fighter. I do think he stops him though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be dominant, and I think that once again people aren't going to give Usyk credit. I sound like a broken record, but he's one of the best fighters, and I feel like a lot of times America fans don't even acknowledge him. You know, he's one of the best
because
guys.
but they are coming from the mindset that like, oh, he can't beat Jack Dempsey. You know, like that's who we're talking about.
Yeah, he can't beat, like, I don't get me wrong, I love Joe Louis. But Joe Louis would have had a lot of problems with Alexander Usyk.
It would not have been competitive. I don't even feel bad saying that.
I like Muhammad Ali, but I have a lot of, like, Muhammad Ali had some major flaws, and Usyk would probably like, you can't keep your hands low against Usyk. We saw that with Tyson Fury.
There does get to be like a certain level of heavyweight where I'm not as decisive that he would definitely win. But if you can't give him a seat at that table, like I just don't understand that at all.
Well, it's like people will give Ernie Shavers a seat at that table because he punched hard. But then like Usyk, it's like, oh no. The funniest is people will say that Evander Holyfield definitively is better than Usyk as the greatest cruiserweight. And to me, like, it's like Usyk went on the road and won every cruiserweight belt, then went up to heavyweight and won every belt, becoming undisputed in 2 weight classes with basically all road victories.
Yep. Listen, he did not do it the easy way, bro.
He's a real guy, and he did it the real way. Let's talk this undercard real quick for those that it's not what I'd call a stellar undercard. No shots fired. I just don't think it's what we'd call
it's not a pay-per-view undercard, Lukie. We can say that.
It's not the type of pay-per-view. I mean, Lawrence Okoli, Kevin Lerena is a quality domestic British level fight. Kevin Lerena dropped and almost stopped Daniel Dubois. Lawrence Okoli, we once were really high on him. He's kind of an underachiever at heavyweight. That's a solid fight. Is it a pay-per-view fight? Maybe domestically. And then you have Louis Edsman versus Daniel Lappin. Lappin was training with
I don't know either of them.
And then there was another fight between 2 undefeated fighters, but it looks like that fight is now changed. There's another heavyweight bout, and that's the undercard. That's basically the undercard you're getting.
Yeah, pretty mid for a pay-per-view, honestly.
Adam, my guy Adam, I wonder if this is it. Adam, let me know in the chat if this is the same Adam that I met at Hagen Oaks and they lost my driver's license and I had to sit there. I sold him a book and my driver's license got lost at the golf course. That was amazing. I'm still not high on Shakur. I feel like he used too much defense. I can't even say I really know how good he is offensively. Too much shoulder roll. I mean, that's fair. You can have your opinion. I'm pretty sold on him. So you can have your reservations. We're now going to Manny
just real
Pacquiao.
Quick, just real quick. I would say maybe some of that doubt is that Zepeda had a really good performance. And I think that the fact that Shakur found his offensive moments, it wasn't a great offensive performance, but what it was this great defensive fighter sort of found his offensive identity against an aggressive fighter who forced him to.
Perfect. That works. Let's see. What else can we talk about here? Manny Pacquiao, Mario Barrios. What's your level of excitement?
Kind of low, man. I have a hard time getting down with this one in any way, shape, or form. You know, Manny Pacquiao was one of the greats of the era that I came up watching, and I just don't want to see him taint that time. I don't want to see him taint it for me, for his own legacy, for everyone who watched it. And I just don't really get what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. Like, I understand money is great. I don't really see how Pacquiao wins this fight. Personally,
He doesn't. I think it's just a matter of how sad is it.
because to me, this is Hector Camacho versus Ray Leonard all over again. You got a guy who's pretty much in his prime, around his prime with Barrios, taking on an older guy. Fans come out to see the older guy. And instead, what we see is Barrios probably jabbing him a lot. I mean, we saw what Barrios did to Ugas, and Ugas looked like Houdini in there with Pacquiao. So, I mean, and this is an older Pacquiao. I get that he trains well and he's looking good. But the great fighters look good in the gym. They just don't show up on fight night, is what I was always told. So they look good training. They always have it. And then they get to the fight night and they're just not quite that same guy. I just hope this isn't sad, and I hope it's safe, because I'm a big fan of Barrios. I'm a big fan of Manny, big fan of Bob Santos, big fan of all the people involved. I understand the fight makes a lot of money, but I really think Barrios is.
I'll be honest, bro. I think it's kind of shocking that it's happening.
It's a weird fight. And I think that the lack of buzz around it kind of speaks to how weird the fight is, right? Because a Pacquiao fight, even the Ugas fight, had a lot of enthusiasm, right? So
it feels like going to a funeral. Like it's not obviously not in a literal sense, but it feels like we're just going to watch Manny Pacquiao get fucking like executed.
So let me throw it to you like this. If he wins this fight, is there a chance that like we get a Tank Davis fight, or what do we get?
I don't know. It's tough for me to imagine the guy that lost to Ugas winning that fight, and I would guess he's not that guy anymore. So I can't even visualize what that would look like. It would really require Pacquiao turning back the clock to the Thurman era. I just don't know if that's possible.
And that's 6 years ago now. 6 years ago. Yeah, I mean it's a different era. It's a different day. Adam also said Layla Ali said she'd entertain a fight with Clarissa Shields for 20 million. She's 47. Would you guys watch? That is crazy to me that Layla Ali is only 47.
She looks great.
Yeah. Because it feels like she's been in my life since like 1998. I remember her being around. So don't you think that's kind of crazy that she's only...
I guess. I mean, I would watch that fight, but it's like, I think it would have kind of a similar feeling. Like, if we're picking where we can only watch one fight per weekend, I'm watching the Usyk card, and I'm missing this one. Just because
we got one more card to talk about, and I think that's the card you and me are going to be watching this weekend. That's the BAM card. But I mean, I think that's about all my thoughts on this. I'm a really big Pacquiao fan. I'm a big Barrios fan. But like the age, I can't get past the age for this fight, bro.
It's uncomfortable.
The age is a little weird. And also, like, Barrios is such a nice human being, and he's getting in there with an older fighter. It's just weird. Do you see that Camacho type vibe to this fight, the Ray Leonard Camacho fight, or is that you don't see that?
No, I think that's fair. Like, I just don't want it to get ugly. We're talking about a top 10 all-time fighter here, and this seems so reckless.
Yeah, this is like, I'm not trying to make it funny here, but this is up there with like, you don't want to see your dad get beat up by the neighborhood bully. Like, I don't want this to be one of those moments where it's like,
I get worried it's like an Ali Leon Spinks, where
let's just stop talking about it, man. It's a decent enough fight. If you've never seen Pacquiao fight, he's one of the greats. I just don't like a guy fighting at his age, coming from a long layoff. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And Barrios is a great guy and a true professional. And I just hope they have a good fight. But it's just, I don't love it. Just being frank, nope. I don't love it. Let's talk about the undercard. It's a good undercard. I do think it's a pay-per-view undercard. Undercard here, Fundora Tim Tszyu rematch is your main co-feature. What do you think of that fight?
Man, I mean, we just haven't seen Fundora in so long. That's really my main concern. And
we saw him with Cordell Booker.
I know, but if that's one time in like a year and a half, I would have thought this rematch would have been so much more interesting at the time that the first fight happened. But Tim getting dominated by Mortazaliev, who it seems like the division is trying to forget exists, and
And
just
no one. The only person that's willing to take a fight with him is Virgil Ortiz.
and probably Badramov would fight him, but it's just like
Virgil's talking on Twitter and it's like, hey man, I'll fight you. But he's like, I'm a big Virgil guy, super respectful. He's like, we don't need to trash talk, but I'll fight you. But I get what you're saying. It's like this guy's a world champion and it feels like he's not getting any TV days.
Yeah, he's just kind of gone, and it feels like everyone's trying to forget about that one. So I'm way less interested in this fight than I would have been had they made the rematch more quickly.
I just think it's a bad matchup for Tim now. He's taken a lot of damage. He had a fight with Joey Spencer. Didn't look amazing in that fight, but got the stoppage win. We still don't know how that cut's healed. He's in there with the boogeyman that caused the cut. They're probably going to have a head clash in this fight because they both kind of getting close. There's going to be a cut in this fight. Is it the same cut? I don't know. I just think it's hard. It's going to be hard for Tim, and his mentality, I think, is very macho and like, I'm going to come forward. And I think it kind of plays into Fundora.
100%. But it's, I don't know. I thought Fundora looked good against Booker. It's a good fight, but it's just tough to see Tim, getting himself back to that level after what we've seen. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just tough to visualize.
Well, he took a lot of damage, right? We were as high as anyone on him because he has that Golovkin-like ability of closing off the ring, throwing punches. But it's like he's taken, what would you say, 50% of the damage you can take in a pro career in like 2 to 3 fights? So That's not good. Adam said, I think Zoo gets him this time. Wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out. Zoo was a problem before the Murtazaliev fight. The problem is that Murtazaliev fight was a hell of a fight.
That was an ass whooping, Adam. That was an ass whooping. And it's not just like, you let go and you move on. Ass whoopings stay with you forever.
And I think that it was an ass whooping preceded by a cut that had severe ramifications that caused him to, in that Murtazaliev fight, stop and am I bleeding?
Right. Am
I cut? And that's you never want that, bro. You never want the, oh my God, am I bleeding? So that's one of the fights on the card. Then we got Isaac Cruz against Angel Fierro. Fierro's training with Robert Garcia for this fight. Think this should be just like back and forth punch each other fight. What do you think?
I can't call it, bro. I really can't call it.
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. Cruz is either going to bounce back and get a big win, or Cruz is starting to go the wrong way. And Fierro,
I think this fight got all fucked up for me when Rayo lost so bad, where it's like I don't really know what to make of Cruz right now.
Well, and I think the thing with Fierro is Fierro probably overachieved in the first fight, right? But then he got with a great trainer with Robert Garcia. So you have to wonder, like, if he has that same fight, but is with Robert Garcia, would he have won the fight? Is my question that I'm now starting to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it kind of felt like we got the best out of both of them that night, and that the rematch will be something similar. Isaac Cruz is one hell of a fighter, and he's one of those guys, man. He's just going to be a tough puncher. He's going to be a good pressure guy. If you give him that moment like Rolly did, he's just going to knock you out and fuck you up. But it's weird. The Rayo fight did kind of throw me for a loop on what I felt like his trajectory or his ceiling might be. And maybe Fierro is capable of making those adjustments. I'm not sure.
The thing that I'm going to look at is the size, because I think Fierro's size at this weight class bothered Cruz. Cruz is he's a thick, strong guy, but he's undersized at junior welter. and that's going to be a story for me. Adam said Pitbull is such an interesting fight with anyone with a name. I just don't understand why he went for a rematch with a lesser-known Fiera. I think it was the best option on the table because it was kind of a controversial action fight that had Fight of the Year written all over it. I think I
Which
don't
part
know.
was controversial in your mind? Because I mean, I didn't think it was close. I thought it was a
Well, I mean, I think
extremely entertaining fight.
I think it was an entertaining fight. Controversial is not the right word. I think that when fans see a fight that's exciting with someone they're not as familiar with, there's a tendency to believe that guy's winning. So I think some fans might have been like, Fierro should have won because he had some rounds that were very much in his favor, and they're not scoring it by the 10-point must system. So I think heading into this fight, you're coming off of like an action fight, 2 Mexican fighters. It's a rematch. I think there's also a chance that you get another good one. You could have a trilogy between 2 decent action fighters. And when you have 2 Mexican fighters, this is possibly how you build a star, is an organic rivalry. You know,
it's not dissimilar to Gaddy Ward, right? Like Gaddy was a bigger name. Ward was sort of like the big name at the club circuit, like the ESPN Friday night fights superstar. And I think a lot of people didn't think he was really at Gaddy's level. And then it became one of the great rivalries. So maybe,
I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Dynamics here feel similar.
It's kind of similar. I mean, I think Fierro working with Robert Garcia is going to have a better fight than he did the last time. I'm not sure he wins it, but now that we talk about it, I think they're headed to a trilogy, because I think that bringing Robert in, you're going to get another competitive fight.
I wouldn't rule it out.
Here's the fight that Lukie and Dakota are most excited about. I didn't even ask you, but I'm sure that this is going to be it. Brandon Figueroa versus our guy Joet Gonzalez. I'm sure we're both picking Joet for this fight. Just love some Joet Gonzalez, true professional, beats Arnold Kaegi on ProBox, gets this opportunity. Figueroa did not look great to me against Stephen Fulton. This screams Joet, one of our guys, Hall of Very Good, first ballot, Hall of Very Good guy. I feel like this is how he reinvents himself, is going in there with a guy who might be a little shop worn and just really making it a hard
who never fights. I mean, Figueroa just never fights. That's really the big one with him, is we just don't see him in the ring. Sort of typical of all PBC fighters in 2025. But yeah, I mean, I think Joet has a really good chance in this one, man. And traditionally, this is the kind of fight that he would win 7-5 and they give to the other guy. And it's very possible that that happens again. But I, in general, think that he is just a better fighter than Figueroa. And I think he's shown it time and time again.
Now we're going to get to our very last card, which this has been a marathon of a show because they gave us all of these. Jesse Bam Rodriguez is coming back on DAZN. You can watch it with a regular DAZN subscription. He's taking on Kafu. Unification bout. Bam is amazing. If you haven't seen Bam yet, you really should watch Bam. This is the non-pay-per-view fight, albeit you need an expensive DAZN subscription to see it. But this is one that I'm very excited about based on the talent of Bam Rodriguez.
It's really exciting. I didn't feel too confident that Kafu won that last fight against Tanaka. That was a really close one. That was kind of a flip a coin, but that wasn't the best performance I've ever seen. I think Kafu's best bet, though, is the fact that Bam's already got another fight lined up for after that, which LL Sheik seems to make a habit out of doing, is announcing guys that have fights lined up and announcing another fight, which I don't think helps. I think the fact that Bam is scheduled to fight Fernando Martinez November 22nd bodes well for Kafu. If he's going to find hope, it has to be he's not really paying attention to me. He's overlooking me.
And that's a true statement, right? That can happen, right? Is focus is the most important thing. I'd like to believe with a fighter at Bam's level who's taken a harder route, fought the former champions, that probably wouldn't be an issue. But man, do you get nervous when you start playing with the boxing gods? Like it feels like there could be a head clash, no contest, or some weird thing here, because it's just like
the guy's too good to look past. Right, like Bam is the better fighter and the favorite in every way, but you can't look past this guy.
Well, the thing that scares me about this fight, right, and Bam should win, is Kofu has that style, and that's why I say head clash. He jumps in, and he's there to like negate the action and make it weird. And he's a guy that can cause a cut. And that's the thing I don't love about the fight is Kofu's never wowed me. I'm like you. I don't know if he truly won that last fight. It was close. All things being equal, I think Bam probably stops him, breaks him down. But he has an awkward style.
And he's competent. He's competent.
Yeah. Adam said, I heard they added Jared Anderson versus Jarrell Miller could be added to the November card. I mean, that's a fight, but I mean, you got two guys. I mean, we can get to that fight at a later date, but I mean, that's more so a crossroads fight for two guys.
That's for the internet. That's for
the internet. We're not getting to that. So we're staying on this card. Diego Pacheco, Trevor McCumbie's on the undercard. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think it's kind of a mismatch. I mean, I think McCumbie had a lot of balls against Caleb Plant, but I think this is a levels fight. If anything, I think that Diego's already fought multiple guys that are above this level, to be honest.
I mean, I think Trevor's a good fighter. I think this is going to show us where Trevor's at, honestly, because
but I think Steve Nelson's a better fighter. I think Selesky's a better fighter. I think McCallman's a better fighter. Like, I just think this is a level that Pacheco's already shown he's, way ahead.
Can we also talk about Pacheco as one of the best resumes in boxing for a non-champion, and people don't really put him in the mix of like a top contender always? Yeah. Like, I feel like they don't acknowledge him as a contender, but he has one of the best resumes for an up-and-comer in that division.
Everyone was singing Manuel Gallegos' praises about 6 months ago, but seemed to forget that Pacheco, that was like one of his easiest fights.
Yeah, he handled him pretty easy. McCumbie should fight Serrano instead. Well, I mean, he's taken this fight. Bipolar Boxing, I think Pacheco smokes McCumbie, so he's in agreement with you. Thank you to our friend Bipolar Boxing. I don't know. I think that the big thing is with McCumbie is he's a guy with motor. He can box, but like it's like when he does those ambush attacks, it's how you handle it. And
he's just so open to get hit, man. And Caleb was like a little vulnerable that night. He looked way more hittable than he's ever looked. And McCumbie stepped up to the plate and gave him a hell of a fight. And honestly, it still wasn't even really close to enough. And I don't think this one goes past. I would be surprised if this one goes past 5.
And so for me, my only thing that scares me is Diego gets hit with right hand sometimes. So that's the only thing that scares me about this fight is like the
by
only
who, though?
By world-class fighters. That's the thing. By world-class fighters.
Right. Is McCumbie a world-class fighter in your view?
I think he is.
I don't know that I see that, to be honest.
I think McCumbie can hang at the world-class level.
Can he hang? Yes, he absolutely can hang. I guess when I think world-class, I think about the top 15 or 20 in a division. I don't necessarily see him as one of those guys. I don't think.
I see him as a guy in the back half.
Okay.
So this fight to me says that. Then we got Austin Williams, Ammo Williams taking on a guy I've never heard of, in Nosa Alycia, middleweight fight. I don't know what to expect from it, man. Williams had a good win over Patrice Volney in his last fight, but Ammo, there's a level of consistency he doesn't have in his fights just yet.
He's been looking a little bit more like spectacular lately, though.
So that's watch it. And then I had one last one circled. Arturo Cardenas versus Dominique Dimes Crowder bantamweight fight. Banger. This is a banger. This is a great.
Don't know either of those guys, Lukie. I have to check it out.
Cardenas is with Robert Garcia at the Robert Garcia gym. Dominique Dimes Crowder is like a 6-foot bantamweight who's been kind of a hidden gem that hasn't been signed by a promoter. And to me, this is just like, this is going to create a world title contender. The winner of this fight is a credible challenger in my mind.
Looking forward to seeing that one.
And then to round it out, our guy Nishant Dev, we love Nishant Dev, and Omari, not Amari, Omari Jones, the 2024 Olympic bronze medalist, also on the undercard. That is your cards. And also, I forgot to mention on the Pacquiao Barrios undercard, you get Gary Russell Jr. returning, Mark Magsayo, Uncle Abel will be on the undercard, and some other guy, David Picasso. So you get some guys fighting as well.
Old school.
Yeah, we love Uncle Abel on this program. We're big Uncle Abel supporters.
It's just wild hearing these types of matchups on that. Like PBC is just stuck in 2017 and they're never going to get out. They're just like still headlighting Broner Pacquiao 2. It's just like it's so weird, bro.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. But that's our show. Dakota, where can people find you? This was a long one, but this is one of those weeks where they're just like, let's give you like a ton of boxing. And then the next week's a ton of boxing. And then the week after this week, it's like there's no cards. And then the week after that's no cards. So then you're going to get a bunch of short shows. So that's
when
just
when it rains, it pours, man. That's just how it is. When it rains, it pours.
Where can they find you?
Well, this week, actually dropping tomorrow morning will be the Fight Life with Price Taylor. That'll be on ITR Boxing. Please go check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. And hell of a show this week, my friend. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Always piping in. We got the best chat in the biz, man.
Right on. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.